And right now, Hunter Biden's longtime friend and former business partner, Devon Archer, is scheduled to answer questions before the House Oversight Committee. He reportedly plans to tell the committee about President Biden's interactions with dozens of Hunter's business associates while he was vice president and alleged ties to his son's overseas business deals. The New York Post front page is describing Archer as an arch enemy. New York Post columnist Miranda Devine is a Fox News contributor and author of the book Laptop from Hell. Miranda, do you know, does Archer... is he mad? You know, like, is he mad that he's the one who is facing jail time? Is he mad that he's been made to go through this and that so far Hunter Biden looked like he was almost going to get a sweetheart plea deal? And could that affect this interview he does today?
Look, I think the feeling is that he really doesn't have anything to lose. And also, friends say that he feels that he's been hung out to dry and abandoned by the Bidens. And that's been a feeling he's had for a long time. But now that his jail sentence is imminent, he still maintains his innocence. And he just feels that, I guess he didn't want to throw himself into the middle of this controversy, but since he was asked to come and testify, he figured he would cooperate and just tell the truth, tell what he knows without fear or favour. And I think he knows quite a lot because he was, as Hunter Biden described him himself, Hunter's best friend in business. Hunter Biden even at one point said, you know, your family, you're part of one of the great families, the Biden family, and we will never abandon you. And he was there witnessing when Hunter Biden would put his father on speakerphone up to 24 times during business meetings with these overseas, benefactors, these oligarchs and other shady characters. And he was also at 2 dinners at Cafe Milano in Georgetown at which Hunter Biden introduced his father to his overseas business partners. We reported on one from April 16, 2015, and Joe Biden denied initially that he had met the Ukrainian business partner, but later the White House, after the election, admitted our reporting, which was that he went to this dinner, sat down and had dinner with Hunter's business partners from Ukraine, from Russia and from Kazakhstan. These were people who had given the Bidens millions of dollars, and they were sitting in a private room at Cafe Milano. Mm-hmm. So I think Devon Archer will be able to flesh out exactly what was said, if anything, during those meetings. I don't think Joe Biden said anything that you could pin on him. He's too clever for that.
Well, if he comes out and says in this interview that he was on the phone repeatedly, that may change things. And Republicans have been clawing at this issue for years, and it's hard to say whether or not they're making much ground, Miranda. And it appeared when that judge stepped in mid-proceeding last week, when she just froze everything in its tracks and said, come back in a month at the end of August. Perhaps they're breaking ground here. But do you think this is maybe their best chance to prove their case? Because Devon Archer traveled the world with Hunter Biden.
Look, I think it's one of the pieces of the jigsaw puzzle. I wouldn't be resting everything. You know, everyone's always looking for a smoking gun. This is not that kind of case, especially when, the Republicans have only been in power for 6 months. And so they're only really doing now what the DOJ failed to do for so many years. And I think that's part of the question and part of their investigation is why? Why did the DOJ and the FBI do nothing in the face of these really grave and evidence-studded allegations that were coming to them from all different sources? It wasn't like they were just coming from, enemies of Joe Biden or allies of Donald Trump. This preceded Donald Trump. And Joe Biden, while he was vice president, was allowing his family to leverage his power in these corrupt countries around the world where he had immense power. And he was aware of it. I mean, he was meeting these business partners. He was willingly and knowingly allowing himself to be sold. And I think what the Republicans have is an ability to follow the money trail, subpoena bank records, and trace what happened to all those millions of dollars.
Miranda Devine, thank you for kicking off our 10 a.m. hour as that interview in D.C. is about to get started. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.